Well, hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my review, such as it is, of Stargate Timekeepers. Is it worth your time? Is it worth your money? No, I don't think so. Look, I am bringing this category back, so if you like these sort of reviews, you can thank Stargate, I suppose. I was going to play through it. I started recording for a Let's Play. But after a couple of hours with it, I couldn't do it. I really couldn't. We may still keep my sort of pricing model of $5 to 1 to do a review. People seem to actually like that metric, but the truth of the matter is, what is this, $43.95? What would that be? That'd be 9 hours of gameplay to do a review. I would rather cop a bullet than play this for that long. I just can't do it. And it is definitely a split of, I particularly don't really love a lot about this genre, and the egregious things that come up from the stealth tactics genre are all on display here. So yes, I do have biases, but this is a great example of everything wrong with it. But also on the other side, there's just some wild decisions that have gone on here that so yes, I'll confess that there's a subjective component, but I think there's an almost objective component about what's wrong with this game. Let's get the preamble out of the way. I am a reluctant reviewer. The only reason I do these reviews is because I don't necessarily relate to reviewers these days. I don't want to write flowery essays. I'm not pulling out my thesaurus for $5 words or anything like that. It's literally just off the cuff after I spend some time with a game. As covered previously, I usually have a minimum hours that I will spend with a game, but I guess there are exceptions to the rule, this being that, in that I don't want to play it anymore. And honestly, that in and of itself is a valid review, surely, right? If a game makes you want to stop playing it, might be time to review it on those grounds. Final thought on that as well, the argument of, well, you just got to play a game for 10, 20, 50 hours and it gets good. No, I don't. I refund that game and I go play a good game that actually respects my time. So I won't hear that argument. So a bit of setup. Okay, so Slytherin. Slytherin is the publisher and developer. Worth noting, internal development is done by Slytherin, which is kind of rare. They have become a indie to AA third-party publisher, and they pick up some bangers occasionally, right? I've enjoyed my time with Slytherin, and honestly, I don't want to burn my bridges with them, but I'm not going to lie about this game. But as far as third party, they've done things like Starship Troopers, the Gladius games. Look, I don't have a list in front of me, but there are a bunch of games that they've picked up over the years that I really, really liked and enjoy covering. But as far as internal, they've done the close combat games. They've done a handful of internal dev stuff, and a lot of them are misses. Worth noting as well is the upcoming Terminator Dark Fate game is internally developed by these guys. I've played actually a lot of preview builds that I'm not embargoed by. I can tell you about them, and that game is looking really good. Really, really good. And so I'm pumped to cover that next month when it comes out. But tragically, this is just not a very good game. It's everything wrong with it that you probably thought. I went in with an open mind and I tried not to have biases, but all the red flags that are there are kind of legit. The game was delayed like 2 or 3 times as well, and again, now we know why. So the lab report is, it is a Commandos style game, right? You got to sneak around and take dudes out with your little abilities, and it's very, very heavy on the save scumming, right? I hate save scumming. Some games sort of overcome it and are the exception to the rule, like Me's games. They've covered Desperados, Shadow Tactics, and then Shadow Gambit, the pirate one, and now that studio is shut down. So the one studio that actually makes good versions of this genre presumably went out of business, even though they knocked out overwhelmingly positively received games. So it might give you an idea. But those ones, especially Desperados 3, I played a bunch of that. The cool thing about that was if you shit the bed, if you messed up the scenario, the stealth or whatever, you did actually have a lot of tools and interplay to go into like an action phase and unfuck the situation, right? I'm a long-standing proponent that stealth as a genre doesn't really work. It works as a component of other genres. The hilarious thing is that people want to tell me, what about Thief? Thief is an exception to the rule, and Thief is also kind of an immersive sim as well. Another great example is Metal Gear Solid 5 as well. A great open world stealth game that when the stealth messes up, you don't just reload the save, you don't end game, you go into a little bit of an action phase. Oh, and more recently, Blood West, we reviewed, did that at a much more distilled level. If it went into action phase, you would have like a 5 to 10 second combat phase that either you died or you won. And it was actually quite heart-pounding. That was really good. This game is textbook everything wrong with stealth genre. There is a critical path that is obfuscated. You can't see it. So but it's kind of obvious in this game because the enemies are just standing around in really overt places. It's quite egregious how they're placed in such a way that is malicious game design. I really wrestled with whether I would call it that or if I was seeing things, but no, it is. You can't take this dude out because that guy over there is very specifically positioned so his cone sees him so that you can't animate. I've had buttons and interactables to like knock logs down to kill dudes that you can stand next to it in a bush, but you're not allowed to interact with it. Why? Well, because the vision cone of the dude guarding that button doesn't go that far around, because the other end of his vision cone is guarding another dude. So inexplicably, you can't press that button. You need to leave the bush and go around the other side of it. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense. Your dude is literally standing next to it. So that's what I'm saying. There's things that seem obvious. There's things that you would think are emergent gameplay. Oh yeah, I do this to get past this problem. You know, problem solving. And the equivalent of an invisible wall will stop you from doing it because that's not what the dev wants you doing. They want you to solve the puzzle a very specific way, and it's infuriating. And then as soon as you step out of cover or you misclick because it is a bit clunky, granted a lot of, the interactables and buttons and all that work quite well, the abilities, the skill shots, whatever you want to call it. Like this is not just like a broken mess of a game. Functionally, it does work quite well. But the actual nuance of moving your dudes around that's required to not get into a vision cone and all that is actually very precise, and it's not really supported by the system. Then you get detected. All the other dudes inexplicably get the alarm raised. Never mind that they're all standing kind of next to each other, and you can shoot dudes with your bloody P90, your machine gun, but that dude 5 feet over there, he doesn't get alerted. That sort of suspension of disbelief would be okay if it worked the other way, if the knife cut both ways. So when I raise the alarm because a dude sees me, that same guy that's out of earshot of the bloke that saw me is alerted. So apparently they all have telekinesis and they can communicate to each other, even if they were yelling. Are you telling me that this bloke's yelling that 5 to 10 feet and they can hear the yell but they couldn't hear the machine gun? Come on, game, you're not playing fair, and that's the first thing that gamers are going to notice. It's strung together in like a sort of episodic format, and like, I get it, and I'm one of the biggest proponents for episodic releases. The devs told me that season 1 is in this, which I think is going to miff people, because I think a lot of people get annoyed at live service environment. The idea of, if I'm giving you money for a product, funnily enough, a lot of people let it go with early access, but if I'm paying for a product, I expect the full product, right? And this has got season 1. It's got 7 episodes, and it's playing like a throwback meme to the television show in a way, right? Season 2 will get released later in the year for free. But the thing is, I get what you're doing, and you're kind of emulating TV shows, but that time is gone. We don't watch TV that way anymore. People binge watch Netflix. Episodic is an embuggerance, and I'm someone that enjoys it. I enjoyed the episodic stuff in Alan Wake. I enjoyed the way the Hitman games released. People forgot that they released episodically, and then everyone cracked the sads, so they buckled and released it all together. So straight out of the gate, this episodic thing, it's going to be a deal killer for a lot of people. But they're just so disparate. It's like the first mission, you're on Battle for Antarctica, which I think's from the TV show. I haven't watched it in 20 years or whatever. And then the next one, you're on another planet, and there's a little vignette cutscene to tie it together, but there's no real sort of flow state. But the most egregious thing of all, and I just can't believe it. Where is the Stargate? I've played the first couple of missions. I've played the first few hours. There's no Stargate. It's a Stargate game. It's got nothing to do with Stargate, right? Why am I sneaking around hitting Goa'uld dudes with their staff things? Like, couldn't it have just been a fucking Roblox character with an M16? Like, perhaps I'm being a bit facetious there, but you're supposed to get the first impressions right in the first few hours, guys. And all I'm seeing is something with the Stargate name on it for no reason other than what? Other than you had it, you managed to acquire it, and you badly wanted to use it. But even then, it's attached to a genre that just doesn't make sense. A pseudo-dead genre. The only time that this genre gets any popularity is with one company that's been knocking out bangers, and that company's gone under. It's hard not to get worked up and angry. I'm not a negative channel, right? I don't go on the huge rants I often get compared to like Mac Wortherby, and nothing against him, but you know, his shtick is to sort of yell and scream and kind of be a bit negative. And that's not really me, but my God, it's very hard to keep a lid on that. I mean, this sounds cheeky, but this is what it feels like. And this might be dating me a little bit. You remember Wild Wild West? The old, it was a Will Smith movie, wasn't it? And everyone knows the Hollywood story, or maybe you don't, you should go look it up. The idea that there was a producer behind it and he threw money at the project, right? But it was a bit of a devil's handshake agreement because he was like, you have to have a giant robot spider in the movie, in the finale. And it's this meme that's been going forever, that for some crazy reason, the dude at the top with the money wanted a robot spider in the movie, and so he got it, right? And so this feels like whoever's holding the purse strings, someone high up in the publisher is like, right, I'll let you make a Stargate game, but it has to be this genre. And it's like, well, do the guys travel through Stargates? Do you build your base like Exogate, the most Stargate game that's not a Stargate game? Do you send away teams or equip them for like run-based things? Maybe it's like a Tarkov run-based roguelike sort of thing. That would make sense for Stargate doing expeditions. What's Stargate? No, it's just going to be scenarios. It's just going to be these stealth scenarios that you go through. Oh, okay. Right. So what does it have to do with Stargate? Well, I mean, we don't ask that question. But here I am asking it myself. Anyway, look, I'm getting off track. Who is this game for? Honestly, people that really, really like the original Commandos games, and arguably, I'm sure they're out there, people that probably think me games and their versions of this genre aren't good. Whoever those three people are. This is so strict on save scumming and that formula of do it the very specific way the developer wants you to do it, and if you step one slight line out of line or you do the wrong thing in the wrong order, they're all going to see you, they're all going to aggro, they're all going to kill you, you have to reload. All of the tooltips in the game is really heavy on, you haven't saved in 10 seconds, make sure you save. The pop-ups are saying save often, reload often, test the game. So the developer intent, the actual text boxes coming up are telling you that the developers want you to save scum. And to me, I find that egregious. Saving is not a mechanic. Saving is a necessary evil because we have real lives and you can't just sit there, you have to go bloody pick up the kids from school or something like that, right? You should not make games where saving and reloading is a core mechanic. Anyway, I'm making myself sad. This is not a great game. And like I said, apart from the fact that I just don't think it's a great genre to tie your cart to, I just can't believe you would take the Stargate property and not do something more Stargate appropriate with it. Surely this could have been an XCOM-like game, a Tarkov-like game. Like shit, even like some sort of roguelike, some micro indie roguelike game where you do runs through the Stargate, and maybe it doesn't just have to be straight up action. You could do little science things and have a procedural component to it where, you know, you pull out your tricorder equivalent and go and scan. So it doesn't have any of that, any of the majesty of exploring the frontier as a scientist, which is kind of something that the TV show really tapped. That's why it stood the test of time, because in many ways, it was a bit of a knockoff Next Generation. And I would argue it's probably at its weakest when it tries to do these epic battles and war plots with the Goa'uld. But then again, I haven't seen it in like 20 years, so what would I know? Anyway, I don't think it's great. I think the people that it's for won't know it's even this genre, because they'll look at Stargate and go, that's for old people. And the people that actually might be interested in it because of Stargate are probably going to be bitterly disappointed because it seems to almost have nothing to do with Stargate. It is Stargate in name alone. So look, that's my thoughts. Let me know what you reckon. Do you want to see this style of format come back? Because just to tie this out at the end, I can't do Let's Plays for games like this. And it's a big part of why I stopped doing them back in the day with things like Hard Space, right? I hitched my wagon to that train for 200 episodes, and then they hired some dickhead writers, they torpedoed their own game, and here I was, the Hard Space guy. What do? I don't really like doing these handshake agreements with playthroughs. So maybe we just stick with this. I do these reluctant reviews, And occasionally we get ones like this that I don't love. I'm not sure, but feedback would be welcome. Anyway, let's wrap it up there. Team, might just leave it there for the time being. I'll catch you guys on the next one.